So, Steven, I really appreciate you continuing to talk with me. Feel free to ignore chat. Just focus on me if you want. So that's me talking directly to Steven Sharif, who was typing in our Twitch chat on one of our live streams last month. I'm offering him a platform for an interview with him in any format, of any kind, even under legal agreements if need be. I've offered the exact same thing to many other people and sources for not just Ashes of Creation, but other stories as well. There's just been so much information put out there across different fragments that it can be hard to keep up, so I'm making this video so we can all be on the same page. We're going to not only cover the actual court transcripts of the legal battle thus far between Intrepid Studios and TFE Games in Californian federal court, but also the recent insinuations and allegations leveled against the work that we've done in covering the Ashes Creation situation. The court transcripts were unearthed by content creator TheoryForge, shout out to him for covering the legalities. The links to his video and court transcripts are in the video description below for anyone to view his explanation of the court proceedings, and also to read over the entirety of what was said in the court between the judge and lawyers. Basically, the court did find the Article 9 foreclosure that's been referenced by Steven Sharif since March to be problematic. I think the judge presiding over this in the March and April hearings was definitely a no-nonsense person, saying things like, everything that each of you is saying cannot possibly be true. You're all officers of the court. Look at what you've submitted in your pleadings because there are factual inconsistencies that cannot both possibly be true. Client control is very important, and perhaps the misinformation comes from what your client, for the plaintiffs, is telling you. Perhaps clients for the defense is saying something else. You need to be in control of what you file before me because you're the lawyers on the case. By the time of the April 2nd hearing, the reversal of the foreclosure and the return of assets back from TFE to Intrepid Studios basically de-escalated things in the eyes of the court, with the judge also finding no reason to dismiss TFE's lawyer after a whole debate over that since the March hearing. Basically, from my understanding, that debate was over whether or not Steven talking to the TFE Games lawyer back in 2024 about possibly filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy for Intrepid Studios constituted a conflict of interest for this legal case. Anyway, the judge stated, I find this issue is now moot. The trade secrets are returned to Intrepid, and there are no longer serious questions going to the merits on the misappropriation of trade secrets claims. The Ninth Circuit sliding scale test for issuance of a preliminary injunction no longer comes out in favor of injunction. Accordingly, I find no cause for a preliminary injunction to issue. The temporary restraining order has expired. Finally, I am setting a deadline for the defendants to respond to the complaints by April 23rd, 2026. Towards the end, once the judge puts her foot down on her ruling, you can kind of sense the restrained glee in the words of Rob Dawson's lawyer, who stated, I anticipate if we do go forward with the public sale, we'll file a notice of that with the court. So it's clear for everyone when that started, Your Honor. There will be no secrets to that point, Your Honor. We do not intend to run down the same path and find ourselves in front of you, Your Honor. I don't want to be lectured again for that. So now we have yet another confirmation of what more sources told me happened at the courthouse back on April 2nd, which I was banned for simply relaying from the official Ashes Discord server and subreddit by former Intrepid Studios CEO Steven Sharif. On Valentine's Day,
no.
I'm gonna call Jason.
Oh my god.
And I'd be like, Jason, could you lend me just a small amount of $5 million?
I'm gonna throw something.
Please, Daddy Jason. No, I'm just fucking around. I don't do that. On the other matters for the video, there's been a few people saying I have no journalistic integrity, that I'm being paid, that I'm compromised, or being given blatantly false information by one side, and that outspoken parties like Jason Karamanis should not have done what he did, legally speaking. I keep telling him he needs to check with the lawyer. He needs to check with his lawyer, and I keep telling him, hey, I'm gonna be really careful with the stuff you're sending me because there's a lot of personal information, bro, in the stuff you're sending me. And I offered him, we can sign an NDA, and he was just like, nah. I can't control what people say or do. I can't force people to talk or not talk. So I'm not sure why the concern over someone's legal safety that they're voluntarily risking has anything to do with me. I also don't agree that just because your sources say something you disagree with, you should drop them immediately. I also disagree with the opinion that building rapport with sources means you're somehow inherently biased towards them forever and will always swallow all of what they say as the hard truth. Personally, I found another YouTuber called Kira claiming I'm a sock puppet for the Ashes of Creation investors actually really funny, so no offense taken on that remark. Pertaining to whatever else was said after that by whoever that was forwarded to me by so many people, I'm just confused as to why things of that nature, debasing me, are never delivered to me or, anyone in this situation directly. Fortunately, the majority of my experience in covering this mess has been largely positive, with many other creators and people reaching out to me out of concern. It's never my intention for any single individual or party to be harassed over the whole Ashes of Creation situation or any situation, and I'm hoping others feel the same. The critical purpose of my recent videos, as I view it, is simply publishing the untold stories, publishing information so that people do get a closure of what happened. I'm also of the philosophy that the more information there is for anyone to draw their conclusions from, the better it is for a more democratic and open space. I've never been paid by any source or party to get their perspectives or information out there. I never will. I have never paid or coerced anyone to issue defamatory statements or give me stories so I can get clicks. I never will. I believe I have gone to the proper lengths to protect the privacy and safety of a lot of people, especially the former developers and employees of Intrepid Studios who were gracious enough to be interviewed or to answer questions a lot of us had. The published ledger also excluded the names of said employees and other people not central to our findings, as we stated in the recent video. And I've reiterated that I am more than willing to be transparent about my financials. The only parties financially involved related to any of this are the ads from the YouTube videos and Cobb, my human thumbnail artist that I pay for making YouTube thumbnails. To the best of my knowledge, the testimonies and information, including the published Ashes of Creation General Ledger I have shared up until this point, have been from sources that, as far as our given efforts show, are verified or legitimate. I am unaware of anything we've shared that has been proven to be blatantly false. Even the tidbit about Riot Games being a potential buyer of Ashes of Creation and Intrepid Studios has turned out to be largely true, it seems, even according to Steven Sharif himself in a new filing on April 14th today, which we'll cover in a different video. The Intrepid Studios investor pitch deck that I published, which a lot of people still believe is fake or was never used for an actual board meeting, had been circulating among other circles and creators for a while. But because I wanted to make sure we had enough digital evidence and corroboration from multiple sources, it took this channel an additional 2 months after everyone already had it to even publish a video talking about it. Furthermore, I strongly believe that the PowerPoint file we published does not make the board or investors look good at all, so I am confused as to why people are thinking I only publish things that make Steven's legal opposition look great. In fact, if you watch the video where the former developers speak out, a lot of them had great things to say about Steven as a person and as a business leader that I included in the video. I didn't cherry pick the worst of the worst things at all, and when Steven came by our live stream, we actually banned viewers who were saying horrible things towards him. I believe I am very careful with what I say or put out, which I hope is part of the reason why the mysterious privacy complaint didn't take down that recent video about the Ashes of Creation ledger. And if you're seeing me saying things like I was personally banned by former Intrepid Studios CEO Steven Sharif from the official Ashes of Creation Discord server and the official Ashes subreddit, after simply relaying the news of his legal defeat from the April 2nd hearing in the Federal Court of California, you can assume I may have pretty strong substantial evidence to support such statements. Recently, Steven Sharif issued a response through news outlet Kotaku that had also reached out to me in regards to the publication of the general ledger that I decided to share as part of my aforementioned philosophy. Intrepid Studios founder Steven Sharif has provided the following statement in response to the latest allegations from YouTuber NefusQS. NefusQS has been fed false and defamatory information by individuals with an axe to grind in an effort to litigate this dispute in the public domain alongside our lawsuit already pending in federal court. Rather than verify those claims, he has chosen to repeat them, acting as a mouthpiece to advance a narrative that drives clicks and views with disregard for basic journalistic standards. The selective presentation of information is intentional and serves to create a false narrative. As to the broader claims, there was no misappropriation of Kickstarter funds whatsoever. The project has been funded over many years through a combination of sources, including substantial personal capital. Assertions regarding lavish lifestyle or personal misuse of company funds are categorically false. An examination of the facts through the judicial process has already revealed that the parties behind these claims orchestrated an unlawful foreclosure to take control of Intrepid's assets from the people who built Ashes of Creation with the intent to exploit those assets for their own benefit. In the process, hundreds of developers were terminated without advance notice pay or benefits in violation of applicable law. These issues are being addressed through the legal process. Tomorrow we'll be filing additional materials in federal court that set out the evidence and further demonstrate the nature and intent behind the conduct that led to the destruction of Intrepid. First, I want to clarify, as I did with Dexerto and other outlets, that I never alleged in the recent video that Kickstarter funds were misused. If that's something other people have drawn conclusions about from them looking at the ledger, that's their conclusions. I'm thinking some of the news aggregators just used Kickstarter to grab people's attention, and maybe that's where the assumption is coming from. Next, I do want to acknowledge Steven's perspective here as valid in regards to me being in contact with multiple sources, some of them who are indeed in litigation against Steven or Intrepid Studios and vice versa. Absolutely, I think people should have some level of doubt or skepticism as to why this random YouTuber has certain information, but not after that question has already been answered multiple times.
But I reached out to you because I felt that your content was very fair. You weren't pretty much completely throwing Steven under the bus, but you had a lot of questions. And when I went through about 15 to 20 people on the internet, I found yours, and I reached out to you, and you responded, and that's why I said, hey, we got on the phone and we had a great conversation. And I respect the work that you did and the way you delivered it and how you presented it. It was great. I think you did an amazing job. So
I will dispute Steven's public statement in saying that I'm only choosing to repeat claims given to me by any party, acting as a mouthpiece to advance a narrative that drives clicks and views. I am still confused as to why I was banned by Steven Sharif after being thanked by him for my coverage. And I'll refute the insinuation that I am simply acting as a mouthpiece or only listening to one party, as I have on multiple occasions reached out to him or had correspondence with Steven Sharif publicly and privately, offering him to share his accounting in any shape or form. Part of a text message I sent to him on March 9th at 7:35 p.m. US Eastern says, "We've been hearing a lot from other people and perspectives, but I still personally believe you have very important things to share from your side of the story that contradict the board's lawsuit and raises serious questions. There are things from your side I especially think people would like to hear on, such as the notable inconsistencies between the April and December 2025 statements in regard to the CFO position that your counter lawsuit mentioned. I think countless people, including your former team who have given glowing testimonies of you as a leader before all of this happened, would be more than willing to hear your personal accounts of the threats mentioned in your lawsuit and what led to your team's tragic collapse. I know this may be hard for some in the comments section to believe, but I cannot force anyone to agree to an interview. I cannot force anyone to share anything they don't want to share. So if Steven doesn't want to share anything or just ignores me as he did, I can only work with what I get, which unfortunately at this point in time is everybody else except Steven Sharif. I'll give a disclaimer here that, as alluded to by Steven, I am not a professional journalist. The only journalism background I have is from 2011 to 2013 for an online newspaper, which is why I have stated things active professional journalists would never say. Things like, I talk to my sources off the record. I am, however, qualified to work in other fields like biotechnology and history, and I strongly believe that our coverage of anything Ashes, since being reached out to by multiple sources, would be ascribed, I hope, some qualities of journalistic standards by many people. But again, I'm human. And if there is ever something that anyone watching wants to critique or offer feedback on, please just give it to me straight. I'm all for improving anything, so I appreciate those who have been giving me a lot of advice.